did we actually need this? Did we actually need this movie? If I was to give this out of 5, I would give this a 2.5 out of 5. Now, it's not a bad movie. If you love the first Beverly Hills Cops movie, if you love the second Beverly Hills Cop movie, you'll actually love this. It's a pretty, I don't know, it's more nostalgic. It feels like a callback. It feels like an 80s movie that was lifted from the 80s and brought into this particular age, and then added modern touches to it. Because in terms of story, in terms of just the structure and plot points, it feels very, very familiar. It feels like the first movie. Now for me, the same way that I went into the first movie is I went into this as an action movie, not as a cop story, as an action movie, because that's why I love the first movie. It has a very strong opening. This also has a very strong opening. It has a very strong ending. This also has a strong ending. Now, Axel Foley as a character is pretty interesting. He's one of those characters that has a very interesting personalities, and the whole shtick about him is the way he's able to snake his way into areas and places, pretend to be someone else. He has a way of talking himself in and out of situations. And so you get the same AxelF. Eddie Murphy is great in this movie. It feels like he just stepped into the character. It doesn't feel like it's off character, despite the age, which they actually acknowledge. He does that effortlessly within this movie, and I thought that was pretty cool. The fact that we still get that character, aged, but still the same character. Now, the thing is that since this is on Netflix, it was a bit toned down. We didn't get the, over-the-top Axel Foley from the first movie. We didn't get that edgy comedy that we are used to, because I felt that the comedy was a bit sanitized. He wasn't provocative. If he was, it was more in line with what is happening in the real world, which is stuff to do with racism. But I felt that some jokes could have been just stretched a bit. They could have been pushed a bit. They could have gone all 80s on this particular movie, because I believe that is the one thing that we need right now. Everything is so sanitized these days that it feels off. It feels surreal. It feels like they're disconnected from the real world. And I think that we need those outrageous, over-the-top comedy that, the first Beverly Hills Cops actually gave us. Now, there's some things like predictability that I did not like about this film, because this feels like a version of the first movie. So if you've seen the first movie, you know the story beats. You know what happens. Something happens, so he has to go to Beverly Hills. Only this time, the daughter is introduced. So the catalyst of this story is actually the daughter, because something happens to the daughter, then he goes to Beverly Hills, and then he learns that something also happens to one of his friends. And so he's thrown now into the story. But you have the same structure whereby you have a very strong opening. Now, the second act follows now Axel as he tries to talk his way into the crime scenes, trying to find out what is happening. And through that, you get to learn about the characters, you get to learn about their challenges, you get to learn about their personalities, what are they going through during this particular period. And in the case of this movie, Axel has a daughter, as I mentioned before. And then the daughter had a relationship with the cop who is now helping Axel with, his investigation. And so you get to learn about the daughter, what she's going through, and what the impact of Axel as a dad had on her, because they never saw eye to eye, and the challenges that she had to go through. And so we follow them as they also try to find, trying to prove that one particular person who was jailed was not actually guilty. And so I loved all that. But as I said, remember, I went into this because it's an action movie. And so the first act, you get the action, then the second act slows down because you need to learn about them. You need to learn where they are, you need for them to catch up. And then now the third act, you get the big action finale, which was pretty cool because it goes into this house and then there's a car going through. I think we've seen it in the trailer, but it was pretty cool. I loved that. One of the biggest issues that I had was, again, that predictability, because I was able to predict what was going to happen. I already saw the movie in my head, structured in my head. It's only that the events were pretty somehow different, but the structure followed what I'm very, very familiar with. So for people who love the first movie, Gen X, the people who were, very young during the period of the first movie, will probably enjoy this movie. People who are looking for something different will have a difficult time with this movie, because there's nothing actually very different about this movie that sets it apart from the last three. The other thing that I actually did not like is Kevin Bacon is in the movie. And when he walks in, you immediately know who the villain is. Yeah, you know where this story is going. As I said, familiar, predictable. I went like, okay, he's going to be the villain. Then apart from Kevin Bacon is now the daughter Jane. The actor did a fantastic job. She did a fantastic job with the role. I think she gave it her all. She tried to be Jane, but every time I was watching her, I kept wishing that she'd be more of a Kiki Palmer. You know how Kiki Palmer is, her personality, she's very loud, she's over the top. I thought in my head that Kiki Palmer is what I would expect the daughter of Axel Foley would look like. You know, that those personalities would have worked very well together. Actually, now putting them in that situation whereby they are father and daughter who've not been in touch and they don't really like each other, that would have been a much more interesting character to be there, to actually be. It would have punched that energy that was needed to make this movie interesting. Because for me, I was struggling, especially the second act. I was really, really struggling to stay focused because things kind of slow down, but then they go up again during the third act. So that's how I felt about this particular movie. It's enjoyable. Now that it's on Netflix, it actually works because it's where it's supposed to be. And being a Netflix movie, I was surprised that they didn't take it where I thought they were going to take it. Are you going to see some things that are familiar with any Netflix movies? Yes, you're going to see, and there are a lot of them, and they are obvious. They're not shy about them. If it's diversity, inclusion, they usually have that because they have to please everyone. And I think that adds to the problem of them not trying to do something different. If they were to lift this straight from the 80s and bring out the edgy comedy that we are familiar with from the 80s, that would have made an interesting movie. But the jokes here are a bit sanitized, they're a bit safe. So I wish this would have been more outrageous. I wish Axel Fanny would have been much more provocative rather than trying to be very comfortable and very, very safe with this particular story. So basically that's it. If I was to suggest this, if you love the first movie and the second movie, you'll probably give this a 4. It will be very, very enjoyable. If you are looking for something different, if you are thinking that they are going to maybe retouch it a bit and make it its own thing, you remember what they did with Top Gun? Try to punch it up a bit, trying to modernize it. Nah, this is not the movie. Those people who are looking for something new to watch, then you'd probably give this a 2.5. And that's what I actually give it, because I would have hoped that they would have done a different story, a different structure. They would have made a much more provocative main character, and they would have used Kiki Palmer. She would have made the perfect daughter. Basically, that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. Thanks for watching this. If you're here and you haven't subscribed, I invite you to join the family. If you've always been here, you're subscribed to my channel and you've watched all my videos, I'll take this opportunity to actually say thank you. Thanks for watching my reviews. I review movies, I talk about pop culture, I talk about comic books. So I'm basically doing it because I love movies. I'm an animator. In the future, I'll probably make my own movies, but that's not important. Anyway, thanks for watching this and adios.